Art the Clown returns with a new installment, this time 5 years after what happened in Terrifier 2, where the pale girl says goodbye to show us the monster that Vicky became, while Sienna tries to get her life back on track without knowing that she will soon face the biggest challenge in her life, which will lead her to look directly at her destiny. If you want to know how far the mythology of Art the Clown goes, as we see what may be the only way to defeat him, then keep watching the video. Let's start. On Christmas Eve, little Jules hears a sound from the ceiling and calls her parents. To avoid domestic violence, the mother takes her daughter to tuck her in while asking her not to be afraid of the noise, because it's probably Santa's elf checking to make sure the house and decorations are ready for Christmas. To make sure she passes the inspection, Jules asks her mother to leave cookies and milk so she doesn't get bumped off the list, and in doing so discovers that someone forced their way in. To not get worried, the woman goes upstairs and complains to her husband for leaving the door open. Jules hears the noise again downstairs and sees a shadow. She calls little Timmy to see Santa, but the little boy asks her not to bother him. Jules goes to see Santa, but when she notices some red gloves and an axe, she hides, and before she warns her brother, she remembers that he told her not to bother him again. So Art takes care of him. Next goes the father, who is chopped to pieces by an axe, and the woman wakes up when the whole bed is already full of blood, just in time to see her husband's head split in half. The woman goes out to get her children to safety, discovering that little Timmy is missing several pieces. As there is no time to piece him together, she goes downstairs to try to open the door that she herself locked, receiving the first axe cut in the back. Art enjoys the milk and cookies left for him while listening to the carols, and after washing his dishes, the sound of an anacle shows him that he still has one toy left to amuse himself. 5 years earlier, the police enter Terrifier's attraction and find Art's body without his head. Just as he was reporting it, the officer hears the sounds of Sienna and her brother running away, so he approaches and sees the remains of the fight, only to be killed by the remains of Art, who begins to reanimate. The clown can't last long without his head, so he borrows the police officer's head while at the psychiatric hospital. Vicky was building him a new head. The noise of the woman splitting the head attracts the attention of the nurse in charge, who runs to see what is going on and discovers what is left of the girl feeding Art's head to another nurse. Vicky attacks the attendant, and between her and Art they tear off his head and use the extra material to finish repairing Art. The couple is riding the subway when a random guy dressed as a clown applauds him for how well done his costume is, and since Art needs a new costume, he decides to kill the guy before going to his hideout. Vicky starts playing with the boy's horn and also some rats, while the clown inspects the place. The bastard knows he must rest to fully recover after his battle with Sienna, so he uses the rocking chair in the attic to hibernate. While what's left of Vicky asks for help one last time, she is once again controlled and forced to slit her wrists so she can hibernate in the bathtub. Shortly before Christmas, this man goes to pick up his niece Sienna after 5 years in psychiatric rehab. He takes her home where she is reunited with her cousin Gabby and her Aunt Jess. They all have a nice reunion and help the girl settle into her new room. Seeing the only photo she had left with her father, Sienna remembers that before he went crazy, he was a comic book writer and that she constantly asked him to do a story in which the girl was the heroine, to which the man promised to work faster so he could spend more time with her. His trip to the past is interrupted when he sees her cousin reading his nightmare diary, and she snatches it from her, warning her never to read it. A team arrives at the abandoned house where the clown was, as they received reports of a fire and were there to see if no one was inside. After watching that the new one named Dennis was quite scared, the older one named Jackson tells him that the house was famous because a madman murdered many children there in the 90s. Dennis checks upstairs while singing Christmas carols to get over his fear, while the other sees a light flickering. Jackson finds what's left of Vicky and takes some photos for the record while calling his partner. But as he gets too close, the girl cracks his neck open to recover. Dennis runs into Art, who knocks him to the ground and stabs him with his left hand. The guy tries to free himself, but the clown eats his fingers, and when he sees that it turns her girl on, he takes a box cutter and opens his scalp so she can see his head well peeled. All this while the girl touches herself. Art starts to prepare his new tools while Vicky starts to play a bit. The clown modifies a fire extinguisher and watches that he can now freeze rats with it without any problems. He then breaks one into small pieces and gives it to the others so they can have some snacks. When they finish packing, the family begins to eat dinner, and although Gabby asks Sienna to show her scars, her uncle calms the situation by saying that Gabby likes to tell anecdotes about her scars. They then change the subject by saying that Christmas won't be the same because last year Gabby stopped believing in Santa when she discovered the gifts they had bought. The tension seems to be gone, but one of Sienna's friends appears to blame her for the death of all her loved ones, and the girl leaves the table to avoid making a scene. Jonathan goes to his college room and discovers his roommates Cole and Mia having fun. The girl takes advantage of the interruption to tell him that she admires him for getting out of a massacre alive, asking him to appear on the crime podcast she has with his roommate. Luckily, Sienna calls him, and he is able to escape the conversation. In a bar on the outskirts of town, this old guy dressed up as Santa flirts with some girls and is spotted by Art from the outside. The bastard pulls the girls off to see if he's the real Santa, and the man decides to indulge the clown and talk to him, asking him not to pull his beard because it's real and he lets it grow all year long. The bartender asks him to show him what he has in his bag and asks him if he is of age. The clown shows the ID he had stolen from the officer he killed, and thanks to this, they get to enjoy a good time. The clown doesn't like the taste of the drink and spits it in Santa's face. Then he urinates and the moment gets tense. The clown pulls out his gun and ends up killing Santa's friends, then goes after the old man. The guy begs for his life and says he will give him his suit so he won't hurt him. But the clown just ties him up and puts on his suit, then uses his new ice weapon to freeze him. The poor guy begs for mercy because he has a family, but the clown doesn't care and freezes his hands, feet, and then blows them up with a hammer. As he had enough fun, he decides to freeze his face. But as he was alive, he smashes his head and steals his beard, putting a final nose, decorating his new doll. Jess asks her husband to take her shopping to cheer her up. Although the man is worried that she will get attacked in the middle of the street, she ends up convincing him. While Sienna reviews one of the first letters her brother left her when she was hospitalized, in the letter Jonathan clarifies to Sienna that she did not kill the clown since after their first adventure, Art became a demonic entity, and such entities remain present in reality either by possessing someone or using a corpse as a receptacle, implying that Art was able to continue to exist after the first movie, since he infected the pale girl with his madness by turning her into a receptacle, either because he possessed her or because she died recently. So if she wants to defeat Art, she must kill him and the girl with the sword, as she is the owner and is the only one who can defeat the clown for good. The next morning, Gabby and Sienna go shopping for Jonathan's clothes, but the girl gets distracted because the music of the store reminds her memories of when she was in the ninth circle. Art walks around with a Santa mask and waves at her. When Gabby arrives, Sienna thinks it was all an hallucination. Sienna goes to see her brother, but he asks her why she wants to see him. The girl then invites him to spend Christmas with the family, though he turns her down because he's going to spend it with his buddies. Mia and Cole arrive, and Mia asks her for an interview for her podcast, but as she is very insistent, Sienna claims that she is only looking for morbidity and rejects her to the point of almost having a seizure. Jonathan goes to complain to Sienna, but upon hearing that she saw the clown in the supermarket, the young man does not believe her. She argues him for casting her aside, after he was the one who gave her the task of finding the clown and kill him, while he asks her to move ahead because she killed the clown by decapitating him. And even if he was still alive, the fact that they don't even live in the same state anymore will keep them safe. The girl doesn't give up and shows him more letters, in which Jonathan explained that Art wanted to kill him because even though since the second movie the bastard was already immortal, demons always have a counterpart in order to be defeated, that counterpart being the only thing that can kill them. That's why her father had given her the sword and had used his latest stories to give her a clue on what to do. Vicky prepares everything she needs for her final act, while Sienna deduces that she must retrieve her sword to stop the clown for good. Speaking of Art, the bastard put on the beard he stole and beckons a little girl to come closer, giving her a doll. This awakens the excitement of many children who arrive in groups to also receive gifts. Everything was laughter and fun until one of the elves warns security that this man is not their Santa, and when they were taking him out, it is revealed that all the toys were bombs. Sienna returns from shopping and hides her sword behind the tree. Gabby discovers that she has her fingers full of debris, but Sienna pretends to have had an accident and jokes with the girl to calm her down. Art was watching them at the mall and rushed to sneak into Jonathan's building, using the party as an excuse. Jonathan takes his pills as regrets having caused this mess because of his morbid interest in serial killings. Meanwhile, Sienna says that her brother can't spend Christmas there, and thanks to Gabby talking too much, the girl deduces that they read her diary. Sienna casts Gabby aside to be able to speak alone, but before exploding, she manages to calm down, then explains that the diary is true, but what happened should not come to light. Cole discovers the mess in his room and, fearing that something happened to Jonathan, tries to call him, but Mia accuses him of exaggerating because the bad already happened 5 years ago. The boy defends his friend, but Mia tells him that he will do him a favor by making him popular with the story on his podcast. Art listens to the conversation and is entertained to hear the girl say that she wants to meet the clown, that she wants to know what his soul hides and wonders what would she feel if she were one of his victims. Art is excited by this, but when the girl said she would never be with a clown, he gets upset and leaves. The cousins were playing to their heart's content until the news reports the bombing of the mall, and upon hearing the description of the witnesses, Sienna panics. Seeing that the clown had returned, her aunt and uncle try to calm her down, but the girl demands that they call Jonathan to warn him that he has returned, and seeing that she is being called crazy, she takes it upon herself to explain everything that is going on and asks Jonathan to wait for her uncle to pick him up. After giving Sienna a sedative, her uncle goes to get Jonathan, while Jess calms Gabby down by promising her that Art won't hurt her. The clown goes to pee and takes advantage of Mia screwing her boyfriend to pull out a chainsaw, and by remembering what the girl said earlier, Art starts his thing. The clown kills the boys with the chainsaw. The gut gets cut in half several times, making sure to destroy his parts, while he cuts off Mia's breasts and then leaves her the glasses as a souvenir. Gabby goes to rummage through the presents. Sienna's uncle is tricked by Art using Jonathan's voice, convincing him to get the hell out of there. Sienna has a dream about her father, giving him as a gift the drawing of the warrior angel and his legendary sword, capable of killing and wounding anything but its bearer. Everything was going well, but when Sienna touches the drawing, she remembers everything she lived through. The girl asks him not to leave her that burden, but her father tells her that she must be brave and remember that he will always be with her. At the same time that in front of her appears a demon tortured by the Virgin to forge a sword with the hell's fire. When she awakens, Sienna hears her uncle saying that taking her out of the hospital was a mistake and that she may be a danger to herself and others. But when she hears their voice tones, she discovers it's not them, and when she peeks out, she sees Vicky and Art chattering in their voices as they nail her uncle's body to the wall. Sienna runs away, but Art hits her in the belly, and before she can grab her sword, he knocks her out. The girl wakes up tied to a chair while photographed by Vicky, who had completely become Art's receptacle. Meanwhile, the clown used her uncle's viscera as decoration, tying up her aunt in front of her so she could see everything. Vicky uncovers Sienna's aunt's mouth, warning her that she'll cut her tongue out if she screams. The woman only asks to see her daughter, and since she asks nicely, they decide that they will let her open her present in advance, and the first present is... Sienna tries to free herself, but Art knocks her out again with the hammer. And thanks to the aunt screaming and spitting at Vicky, the loonies shove a glass tube down her throat and show the rats what will be their new home. Vicky fits a crown of thorns on Sienna and explains that they are doing all this since Art found out that she was in charge of annihilating him. So they are going to destroy her spirit completely so they can possess her in that way. No one will be able to defeat him. Sienna agrees to be taken in exchange for stopping the massacre, and they test her by showing her that Gabby was still alive. But Art reveals to her that the one they let be eaten by the rats was poor Jonathan. Vicky introduces her essence into the girl, but she manages to expel it when she sees Gabby, and before she is killed, Gabby convinces Vicky to let her open her gifts, because there was one with angel prints. To make it more difficult, Art hurts poor Sienna's hands. When the girl opens it, she finds the sword, and because it was made to strengthen the bearer, she manages to take it out and cuts Art's neck and then stabs Vicky's heart. This obviously does not manage to finish them off, so he retrieves it to decapitate the madwoman. Art takes his chainsaw and fights against the girl, but luckily, the sword was already doing its job of strengthening her. The two of them start to fight, hitting each other pretty hard, and after throwing punches here and there, Sienna finally pierces his abdomen with the sword, opening a portal to the ninth circle. Gabby falls into it when approaching her mother, so Sienna spares the clown's life to try to save her, giving her the handle of her sword to climb up. But it seems that the sword came out defective, as it starts to hurt its owner, and thanks to her blood the sword slips and Gabby falls to the ninth circle, taking with her the only weapon that can kill the clown. All seemed lost, but Art is too wounded and decides to escape from the house, and when Sienna takes off the crown of thorns, she sees that the sword still has power because her wounds begin to heal, which means that Gabby may still be alive waiting for her in the ninth circle. At a bus stop, the clown waits for his body to finish falling apart as he has no other body to possess, and because the devil always gives his best aid to his best warriors, he sends him a bus with a single passenger who has a soul that enjoys gore and reading things like the ninth circle. After that, the movie ends.